So how do you know that book that he wrote or he received is indeed revelation? What is your, objective evidence for that? Because a Christian, whether they're Orthodox or Protestants, they would not accept his claims to be true. So what objective evidence do you share with them or anyone else who's interested to know what your religion is?
Do you think religious questions are answered objectively?
Yes, has to be. Otherwise you can believe this is God.
Yeah. But there is faith, right? There is the faith.
No, the faith has to be based on solid foundations. If you believe by faith this Coke can is God, then how does one argue with you? Because this is simply, a matter of what kind of faith?
Yeah.
Not reasonable faith, unreasonable faith. So faith to be reasonable, it has to be based on solid ground, solid foundations. Otherwise, you can believe in anything, right? Do you agree or not?
Kind of. I think there is both. I think there are both the objective facts and also the things that are more mysterious that are revealed by the Holy Spirit.
So if you're talking about things that are unseen, that we cannot use our empirical evidence or even apply some kind of intuition there. These are the things, of course, you take in by faith, but these would be secondary to your objective evidence that has molded your faith primarily, and then everything else. For example, have you seen an angel?
No.
I haven't either, but I believe in angels, even though I haven't seen them. So my belief in angels is secondary to my believing in God or Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, because I'm a Muslim. So you have to think about what are your primary reasons to believe in the faith, the foundation of faith, and secondary to this maybe some other things that we believe because they automatically follow from it, because not everything can be observable. I mean, I don't believe that you have seen God. Have you? I haven't, but I believe in it. I have objective reasons to believe in God. Do you have objective reasons to believe in your faith? That is the question.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the objective, evidences or even solid rational arguments that you can provide to demonstrate the truthfulness of Latter-day Saints?
Okay. Well, there is one that I think of immediately. Are you familiar with the Hebraic writing style called chiasmus?
Explain a bit more. I may be familiar a little bit, but
chiasmus was only discovered in the 1960s to exist in the Old Testament and the New Testament.
What is that?
It is a pattern of writing that the ancient Hebrews used, where it became a mirror. It's signaled by the letter X.
It's a literary novel.
It's a literary pattern, kind of like Shakespeare wrote in a certain literary pattern.
Okay.
The ancient Hebrews wrote in that pattern. The Book of Mormon was discovered in 1960 to have that Hebraic pattern.
What language was it written in?
It was unknown in Joseph Smith's time.
What language was it written in?
Reformed Egyptian.
No, the book that you're referring to, that you foundation of your faith, was it written in English?
It was first translated in English.
And from what language?
Egyptian.
And do you have the Egyptian copy? Original?
No,
Okay. So if you don't have, then how do you compare it that this was the case?
because the text contains the patterns that were unknown at the time of the translation.
Within the English text, you're saying this pattern's still there?
It is still there, and it is very complex. It spans.
Do you want to give me an example of like which page you're referring to in this book?
It spans entire chapters.
If I want to see a pattern, I should be able to observe it objectively and assess it objectively.
Okay.
Do you want to share an example from it?
I could find it. I don't usually use objective proof because of the spiritual truth being so strong. But there is that one objective truth that I know of, and I'm sure there is others as well.
Yeah. But at this present moment, I mean, I can't assess anything because it's something that has to be postponed for later because you haven't been able to offer anything yet. So at this very minute, is there anything else that you can offer? Like, look, spiritual experiences that you're referring to are seen within most people and communities, whether they are Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, We know that they have experience. So that cannot be the basis of somehow assessing the validity of one's scripture, because this applies equally to all the other faith communities.
It can for yourself, though. It can be your own basis.
Yeah, but okay.
You cannot love my wife, but I can love my wife.
Yeah.
You could too.
Yeah. You'll be in trouble.
What are some of the objective reasons that you have for your faith?
Yeah. So Islam provides falsification tests as one of the ways you can assess the book, whether it's from God or not. Because it tells you if this book is not from God, then this is what you can do to falsify it or to affirm it. Because if you can't falsify it, then the claim that it's from God is still valid. One of the examples that it gives is, this is such a book that if it was from other than God, then there will be many inconsistencies and discrepancies. Okay? So a book that is written over a period of 23 years, talking about history, science, economics, anthropology. I'm just putting in certain terms here and there just to tell you. It talks about all aspects of life, from science to morality and ethics, laws, you name it. It's a comprehensive book. And yet, it asks you, if it wasn't from God, you should find within it inconsistencies. Because what we will see is, when people write, when they are not inspired by God or appointed by God to be a prophet or a messenger, or a spokesperson or an agent of God, they are actually fraudulent imposters, fake individuals who are trying to go by saying, I have received revelation, when they haven't. So what they will produce, effectively, is what is the product of their own learning and experience, and what is the knowledge and experience are around them at that time. So they would make, of course, the information content which is current at that time, what is they thought is true and real and factual, but it may be the case later on. Now, with our advancements of science, technology and knowledge, we would know that it's not true. If somebody said the earth was flat, for example, back then, at one point people didn't have a problem with that. They thought that was it. It's a scientific consensus. But later on, with our kind of technology, when we move outside the earth, step outside the earth, and we can orbit around the earth and just to see how the earth is, we would say that person who said the earth was flat was mistaken. So this is how you can falsify that person's statement saying the earth is flat. So the Quran offers you this kind of falsification test in which you can, okay. Thank you. He's a heckler. Do you know what a heckler in speakerscorner? A heckler is when there's a conversation going, thank you. When there's a conversation going, they cannot have a meaningful discussion themselves, but they love to interrupt and divert the topic to something, whatever they have in mind. Anyways, you can ignore him. That's what I mean. So the Quran talks about these inconsistencies.
When I die, not to meet you in heaven and meet Muslim if they go in there.
Sure,
Because
pray for
I
your
am
own
most
self.
interested.
That's probably better and more
Because
effective.
they play you. America is
No,
in
it's
charge
probably
and Israel.
more better for you to pray for your own self, right? Don't rely on someone else and beg them for their prayers, right?
Who is in charge of you? Really?
Thank you.
Are they your enemy, as you said? America and Israel.
Okay, I'm
They
not
are
interested
your
in speaking
boss.
to you if you don't mind. Thank you. Right.
Good luck. And the Western, they are playing you.
Right.
You're Muslim, you are Asian, you are, they give you mosques, they play you, and they use it.
The arguments you have
Yeah.
made
So,
in
yeah.
the Quran are similar to those I hear of the Bible. That-
Where does the Bible
that it
even
is
claim?
Self-evident.
Where does the Bible even make that claim?
Where does the Bible make the claim?
Even make that claim?
John 1, in the beginning was the Word.
Yeah.
That's the claim that the Word is God. And so this book.
No, the
is-
book about contradictions and inconsistencies and discrepancies. Where does the book make that claim?
I'm just telling you that circular argument that the book argues the book is true is also
No.
made by those of the Bible. They say the same.
Does the Bible say, from what you know, that this book is free from inconsistencies? Because if it says so, we can test it. It has to make a claim. If a book says this book is from God, we can then test it whether it's from God or not. Like Harry Potter, the books by this author, Harry Potter and the series of that book, if it doesn't say it's from God, I don't have to even test and assess it's from God or not.
The Quran says it is from God.
The Quran says it's from God, and it says it is free from
And
inconsistencies.
thus it is.
No, what I'm saying is it's a falsification test that it offers to falsify that book if it's from God. Because if you think about it, if it wasn't from God, we expect it to contain inconsistencies, discrepancies. So when we find, for example, to give you an example of not the book of Mormon, but the book that the Jewish Christian believes, the Old and the New Testament, you would see that theologically it contradicts in very essence of the message. For example, there's a book called Ezekiel, I'm sure you're familiar with. Ezekiel chapter 18, the whole chapter is one thesis. It's all about how, doesn't matter whatever you do, your sins does not transmit to next generation, your son or your grandson and so on, your next generation offspring. If you're a wicked person, your son is not going to be punished for your wickedness. Your son is going to be responsible for his own goodness or badness. So your son may be a good person and you're a wicked person. So your son would not die and be punished because of your wickedness. The whole chapter 18 is actually a refutation of the belief one people had is, oh, God actually takes people to task and account for so many generations. Like you did something wrong, your children and your generations to follow, they are going to be all punished for that. Just like the Christian and the Jewish theology or the understanding that because of Adam and Eve, what they've done, their action is now being what? Taken into the shoulders of all the other people who believe in that religion, and they are guilty of the crime of what Adam and Eve did. So Adam and Eve disobeyed God in the Garden of Eden. It was a crime in the sight of God. This crime is now also imputed on the children of Adam, which they are guilty, and they will also die because of what they have done. We consider that to be unjust, but that's not the point I'm making. I'm simply saying the theology about that, children are blamed or accountable for their fathers and forefathers, Ezekiel says no. Look into other books of the Bible, New Testament and the Old Testament, which gives you the indication. Even to the third or fourth generation, you are blamed, you are guilty. So theologically, this is the inconsistency of the message. If that is a one book. But if I consider that these are different authors writing about in book for different people, then of course you can explain that, okay, no wonder the other author disagrees with this. But the Christianity believes in all of those books to be from God. And yet, this is the discrepancy or inconsistency or contradiction in the theology. When it comes to the Quran, so you can find out whether it's a theology or morality or ethics, science, whether it could be prophecies or history. You need to just go and find something inconsistent. That's what the Quran is saying. Because if it wasn't from God, this is what we expect, like we expect in other books from history. So this is one example in which Quran offers. People can falsify this book. Another example which you may be familiar with because your founder was familiar with this. Because the Quran came 1400 years ago and Joseph Smith was in the Middle Ages, right? So he was familiar with the Quranic challenge in which the Quran challenged people to produce a chapter like the Quran, imitate a chapter like the Quran. So either you do a chapter or 10 chapters, they're called surah in the Quran, or a whole book consisting of 114 chapters. It's up to you whether you want to do a whole book or 10 chapters or one chapter. So the Quran seems to be quite flexible and lenient on the people who cannot do that. And not only that, it says, if you can't do it yourself, you can go and seek help and support from others besides God to imitate a chapter. So 1444 years is almost gone. People didn't just simply ignore this challenge, they tried to imitate it. There are many recorded in historical accounts in which they failed to even say I'm doing something before they could do it because they realized it's not something that's doable. Others did try imitating it. And the products that have come down to us can be easily analyzed by the literary critics, and they can easily say that this is laughable. Because the Quran, even to this day, is the most eloquent book in the Arabic language from its inception. The Arabs never had a book when the Quran was revealed to them. But yet, even to this day, the eloquence of the Quran is uncontested, undisputable, even by the Western academic scholarship. But of course, I am not somehow using this as an argument that, oh, look, what the academic scholarship say. The Quran needs to be judged on its own merit and understood and appreciated by the people of knowledge and expertise on the Quran. So when we look at what is the exact challenge of the Quran, is to imitate its style, its stylistics of the Quran. And the way it is, produced, or, it brought about this genre of the Quranic literature is something that people know that it's not imitable. But that's the linguistic challenge, which may not be easy to understand if you are not fluent in Arabic or even in knowledgeable and have much understanding of literature. So the two main arguments that the Quran provides are actually falsification tests. There are other falsification tests in which Quran says, you did not know this before, for example. Now imagine now, you said up. I knew it. So when it was revealed to the people in which there were the Arabs around them, the pagan Arabs who worship idols, there were some pockets of Jews and Christians in Medina, for example, and the neighboring countries. So you had the Byzantine Empire and you have the Persian Empire. When Muslims went along, and of course there's interactions, they could have easily said, but I knew it, so it's false. They could have easily falsified it. Let me give you an example in which there was so much chance, about 11 years to falsify the book. In one of the chapters of the Quran talks about a particular individual by the nickname of Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab was so, in terms of how his interaction with the Muslims, he's like an enemy of Islam. He doesn't want Islam to be propagated and so on. He wanted to destroy Islam, right? So the Quran simply, the author is God, from his wisdom and knowledge, he just informed of the unseen, the fate of Abu Lahab. We don't know our fate. The land we're going to die, the time we're going to die, no one knows. It's in the hands of God. So the author of the Quran, the creator of our universe, just simply said Abu Lahab and his wicked wife, they will both will be burnt in hellfire, carrying woods and so on in hellfire. So it gave the actual, future outcome of what's going to happen to them later because of their disbelief. Now imagine if you and I were Abu Lahab, I would say, golden opportunity to destroy Islam. I would simply say, oh Prophet, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. What it means is, I be a witness that there is no God worthy of worship, and I be a witness Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. This is how one becomes Muslim, by testifying and declaring. So that testimony would have been publicly accepted that he's now a Muslim, and the fate of a Muslim is not hellfire. He would have simply destroyed Islam, even though he could have done this as an outward saying, as a hypocrite. Inside he doesn't believe anything, but outwards he's saying, I'm a Muslim. There are many hypocrites like that. They could have done that. Abu Lahab had 11 years to do that, and yet he never did these things. So this was an opportunity in which he could have falsified the whole Quran.
We have to go, but where are you from?
But not far from here, but that's...
Were you born here in London?
Oh, I'm from the Indian subcontinent. Okay. So, you have Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, all this area. How about yourself? You're from the States?
Yes, Utah.
Utah. Yeah. What's your name?
Chris. Roger.
Chris, and yours? David. I'm Mansur. It's a pleasure speaking to you. If you have to go, that's fine. Yes. But do look into the Quran, look into what the Quran has to say, because as I said, we are engaging in these discussions in a manner so that we can learn from each other, so that maybe, if our faith is something that we haven't finally accepted as a true reality, we can adopt the reality, the truth. Because if the truth was in, say, a religion called Chunka, we should follow that religion if that was the truth. Do you see my point? So if the truth is in Islam, we should be open to for acceptance. Okay? What are your names?
Thank you.
All right. Pleasure speaking to you. You take care. Okay, bye-bye.